everybody. Welcome to Rock and Roll Shinsu Chu. Hope everybody's doing well. My name is Gabe Estel. I'm here with my co-hosts Dennis Levi Leach and Jonathan Getz. How's it going, guys?
Fantastic.
Hanging in there.
Well, the beat goes on. Want to tell everybody you can check all of our episodes out on rockchew.com. You can also follow us on the Twitter and the Instagram at RockNChew. That's N as in NWA. Say hell no. And then you can like us on Facebook as well. We still pop in there sometimes. And tell all your friends about the show. We are moving through our never-ending list of items in baseball and music that we are thankful for. And I think we've had some interesting takes on these topics. And it's a nice smorgasbord of items, really, that cover two areas that I think all three of us, and many people around the world are yearning for: live music, right? We got some of that, but not a compromised version of it, a Facebook Live version of it, if you will, and then also baseball. So. Every once in a while, I see some kids playing Little League. Haven't really seen it up here, but when I people on Facebook post their kids playing baseball again, so I don't know if that's too soon or not. But nonetheless, we're still kind of waiting, right, on baseball. We have basketball. Looks like it's about got the green light. The NBA is MLB as of the recording. Is it? I have to admit, I'm a little out of the loop with the news. Is it happening? Does anyone know?
It might not happen.
Yeah, it might not happen.
Yeah, as far as I know, they haven't come to any agreement.
Yeah.
So we're just shaking the magic 8 ball, and all signs pointing to no.
That's what Tim Kurkjian says. Yes.
Oh yeah. That's a misprint. That's a name that I cannot pronounce. You know, there's certain words that that. I'll just don't ask me to say bespectacled, right? Because you'll be covered in slobber. You know, you ask me to say that. So yeah, wear a raincoat if you ask me to say bespectacled, and don't ask me to pronounce Tim.
Wiping off my monitor. Just after you say it here.
Yes. But anyway, yeah. Well, that sucks. But this podcast doesn't suck. So let's go ahead and get back to the list, guys. We're getting close. You know, we're down to under 25, I think, right about now, right? Or about 25?
About 27.
Okay. All right.
27, let's say.
Okay. So we move on. I'll go ahead and start with mine. And I was taking some notes on this the last few days. And I'm going to stick with this item that I included on my list many months ago. But a recent passing of a guitarist got me thinking about some different dimensions of this topic. Okay. The item that I've got that I'm appreciative for is bands that tough it out with mostly original members. All right. Now, it's great if you can get all original members. I think most of the time, critically and commercially, it usually works better. Right. If you've got, say, ZZ Top versus Lynyrd Skynyrd, right? I'll use some classic rock examples there. Not that either of those bands necessarily, well, I mean, they're critically acclaimed to a certain degree, but two kind of bands with similar influences that a power trio that's been able to keep it together, and then Gary Rossington and with all due respect, a bunch of, hired musicians, sort of your session type players, and some people that have been in other similar bands. But nonetheless, it's really just one member from the band's prime. Now, I'd be curious to ask you guys, I'll phrase it this way. When does that So I'm appreciative of it when bands tough it out, even if sometimes there is a drop off in quality, in performance or writing. But when do you guys sort of draw the line, or when does it bother you when a band takes too few members out on the road or in the studio? What's kind of like, do you have a number of members that they have to have in the lineup? Do you have I don't know, does it have to be a certain makeup of the core lineup, or if it just sounds good, you roll with it?
You know, with Skynyrd, it's tough because it's like a plane crash like wiped out half the band. So it's like kind of hard to judge them on that. But when it comes to like all the bands, you know, still going, like you'll see like up in Chicago, I know there's still like the Shadows of Night are playing. And it's like, I'm pretty sure it's only like maybe one of the original guys in that. And they were famous for doing Gloria, the Van Morrison, them song. Yeah. Them got banned on the radio in the USA. And so the Shadows of Night came out with a version on the radio in the US. Right. And that's kind of how they got famous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think when it becomes kind of, you know, if maybe there's only one or two guys left, it kind of is almost a novelty act at that point.
Yeah.
But then it also depends on, I think in my mind, who are the guys that are left? Was it the main songwriter? Was it like one of the main musicians, the guy who wrote a bunch of the music? Is he still there?
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes with bands, it's like, oh, this is, you know, whoever, Chicago, and it's like, they got the original like sax player or something,
right? And they're just gonna be playing older tunes anyway, you know.
Right?
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I'll say this. Go ahead, Levi. I cut you off.
Well, I was going to just finish it with like, it gets to a point though where it's kind of like a glorified cover band, you know, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
And I want to say first, like I, for a lot of bands, particularly ones that aren't, you know, the Rolling Stones or U2 or, you know, I don't blame, I don't fault anyone or judge anyone, I guess, for soldiering on, you know. I mean, like, I guess if you had a hand in creating the music, you have some say in whether the band, you know, continues without a vital member. Exactly. And it's like, you know, they're musicians. I mean, they're pro musicians. It's not like they're, you know, it's not like they're going to go into fucking, you know, not got law degrees to fall back on or something, you know. Right. I mean, right. So I get that. I guess, you know, for me, I've been thinking about my answer. My answer to my own question is, I think when you lose the mind of the band, I hope that doesn't sound too pretentious, but like just like when you lose like a principal songwriter or writer, like for instance, I'll use an example. And I know, Levi, you went to go see him, and I'm sure it was a good time, and it was really kind of nostalgic and fun to hear all those songs again. Like, I listened to that Blind Melon album without Shannon Hoon, and it's like, I was like, why did I bother? You know, I mean, and I don't, because you've lost the mind of the band. Like, the guy's too unique of a mind and a voice. So that would be like one for me. Whereas, you know, I don't know. I mean, like right now, Guns N' Roses, you know, I'm bothered by the fact, I guess, slightly that, well, I shouldn't say slightly, like it would be so much better for me if Izzy was there, and I guess Adler too, or at least Matt Sorum. But I still paid for a ticket.
So three guys aren't enough?
So yeah, like, I don't know. Yeah.
An Axl isn't enough for you, though.
I guess, yeah, in some cases, because I'm such a big Izzy fan. Right. You know, that's one right there where...
Yeah, I love that Juju Hounds record. It's a great album.
Well, I mean, like, the riffs, man. I mean, like, you know, like, Appetite for Destruction is, like, great, like, not only because of Izzy, but a big reason is because of Izzy. You know?
As far as the Blind Melon thing, man, it's tough. It's really tough for the fact that, you know... and he no longer tours with them, but when I did get to see them with Travis, it was Brad Smith on bass and Chris.
Yeah, no, the rest of the members are there.
All the original members, and so I've never even heard that album that Travis released with Blind Melon. One of my things with Going was it was almost like a full circle, bringing in not an end to my Blind Melon fandom, but like it was like a really warm hug of my Blind Melon fandom for the fact that you could see all the joy in the crowd on people's faces of hearing those songs again. Because I think those songs, and when they're good songs by good bands, I think they can touch people for a long time. And it seems like a shame to deprive people of that, especially the members of the band. Because obviously Christopher Thorne and Brad Smith and the guitarist and drummer wanted to keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they're talented.
It's a really tough call, man. And then it gets down to a point of the business of it all, to where, like at certain points, like you said, if there's only like one or two of the guys who are in the horn section left or something, well, it becomes such a business to where someone buys the name of that band. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The band is like basically an LLC. Someone is buying the name of that band, touring. It's exactly what's happening with Blackfoot right now. I think I told you about this, didn't I?
Yeah, they got those younger guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Blackfoot, and it's like Richie Blackmore's endorsing it, or not Blackmore.
Richie Medlock.
Yeah, Richie Medlock. And so he like endorses them, but it's not any of the original Blackfoot guys. It's not Medlock. And they're playing all those tunes, and they're going out as Blackfoot.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely where I draw the line. You know what I mean? If you have guys in the band that weren't even in the band and they're going out calling themselves the band,
yeah,
that's where I kind of would draw the line.
I was listening to a band earlier today that had gone through a lot of lineup changes, even in like their heyday. I'm talking about the Guess Who, right? And I was listening to kind of like, I've got like a list of classic rock albums that like aren't as well known from established bands, like a playlist that I kind of try to dig into. And I was listening to like some of like the mid 70s, like Guess Who, like where like after Randy Bachman had left, but Burton Cummings was still around. I think the Guess Who now like tours with like the bass player. Like that's it. So I'm going to draw the line there. All right. No Shannon Hoon or just the bass player of the Guess Who. Those are my lines. All right. Getz, what about you?
I agree with most what you guys are saying along the lines of Blind Melon. I also think of Stone Temple Pilots, and at that point, like you said, it's just a machine that. Yeah, I shouldn't say that, just a machine. But it is a business, and they keep a lot of people employed, and the remaining artists want to keep the music alive, and that's fine. But they know it's not the same, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So there's that level, right? And then and then there's like when the band toured After the Last Waltz without Robbie Robertson, and everybody pretty much just ignored it.
Yeah.
and when the Crows were Black Crowes decided to tour, basically fire everybody and tour without Steve Gorman, and that drew a line for us, a line that we moved, as Mark moved to and fro and, switched out with Audley, and like we were willing to acclimate to a lot of that.
Yeah,
but then we drew the line at Steve Gorman, right? And so there's that, and Steve Gorman is kind of, one of those guys who, he doesn't like write the lyrics, he doesn't write the songs necessarily, but he's, kind of the heart and soul. But a band that who has executed this switch out of members in a way that I think is very rare and for the best is Wilco. Wilco has only two members from the original lineup, Jeff Tweedy and John Stott.
Yeah.
And they did a big overhaul after being there after Summerteeth. Notable guys like Jay Bennett came and went, but at the same time they did all these changes, and it solidified right around 04, 05 this lineup which added guys like Nels Cline and Glenn Cochi and the Michael Jorgensen passing us on. And I think it's the best version of the band. Are there? That's not to diminish what the band produced before those members joined, because it's like a different band. Wilco is two distinctly different bands, and they've been. I think we've all benefited from that.
Yeah, I said original members in my question, and just kind of when I introduced this topic. I think I probably should have said like prime lineup, because like sometimes like, when a band starts, it'll just be like, the two musicians we know and like some guys in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? That like, and then, maybe those guys play on the first album and then they're gone and the lineup, really, gels and becomes the iconic lineup. So I guess I should have said like in their prime or iconic. One thing that I was thinking of that, it got a guy by the name of Bob Kulick, who I don't know if you guys might know who he is, passed away a couple weeks ago, and he was he was a session guy. He played lead guitar on like a Lou Reed tour, but he was also kind of like one of Kiss's like writers, like he like played on like some Kiss albums. And he's not really, maybe he's credited for it. I don't have the liner notes in front of me, but like, he's sort of like a secret member of Kiss. He was, and his brother, Bruce Kulick, was an actual on stage member, in the studio member of Kiss in the 80s and up until the reunion in the mid 90s. But it got me thinking, like, you've also got this world, and there's an article I found from LA Weekly a few years ago, which I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. You've got like, your keyboardists backstage as well, like Sabbath. Black Sabbath toured with a keyboard player off stage.
Oh yeah, Ozzy did during the whole like Diary of a Madman, Randy Rhoads.
Right, I think that's lame.
Yeah,
that's lame, right?
Iron Maiden does it with their bass tech plays keyboards off stage.
I think that's lame.
I've done, I mean, I've worked a lot of shows and stuff like that happens.
U2 has a keyboardist that plays off stage. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of bands will have kind of like especially country bands, will have like a multi-instrumental guy kind of off stage who might play some fiddle on a tune, then he might play accordion or dobro or what, like.
Are they embarrassed of him? They don't have the room? What's the deal?
Yeah, and I mean, in some cases, like I'm just kind of skimming the article as I mentioned this topic here. In some cases, it's a confidentiality agreement. Like, U2 doesn't want really people to know that. And yeah, so it's weird, and it always bothered me too that, like, since Bill Wyman left the band in the early 90s, that the Stones don't have Chuck Leavell and Daryl Worley in like band photos, Yeah. Like, I think that's fucking lame. Yeah. And it's maybe not even their call, But then again, though, I don't know. They're the fucking Stones. They could probably say, "Hey, we want these guys in a picture." I mean, I'm sure there's some, corporate hands in it that it's not totally like up to Mick and Keith and Ronnie and Charlie to say who's in the photo, but I would figure that like could make it happen. It's a slap in the face to two really talented musicians, particularly in Leavell and Worley. So yeah, that bothers me. That's always kind of bothered me. That those guys aren't in band photos and stuff. I think that's fucking lame.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. So those people day in, day out. And with the I could go on about this one for a while, and I took quite a few notes, but I will say that lineup changes. My four favorite bands, if like you had like four cornerstones of my popular music universe, would be the Black Crowes, Kiss, Pearl Jam, and Yes. Where Pearl Jam, why I think they operate with more integrity than those other three bands I mentioned is because of the lack of lineup changes. I think I mean Black Crowes are probably my favorite band, but the lineup changes have hurt the legacy of the band, and so has it with Yes, and so has it with Kiss.
Yeah.
Pearl Jam, not so.
Along those same lines, the Allman Brothers seem to handle it pretty well over the years.
And maybe it was the caliber of players that they're getting. Not to bash any of the guys in the bands that I just mentioned for those members, but yeah, the Allmans too. That's another example. Gets like you could make right now with Offspring and related people. You know,
I think it's called the Allman Betts Band.
Well, they got the Allman Betts Band, yeah, because that's got Barry Oakley Jr. in it too. But hey, throw in like Dwayne Trucks and Derek Trucks. You know, there's one drummer and another guitarist. Yeah, and you know that's a pretty good band. Like they called that the Allman Brothers Band. I don't think a lot like that'd be okay, kind of. You know, I mean, to me at least.
Yeah.
Can we have two Dwaynes in a band? Dwayne Betts and Dwayne Trucks.
Oh yeah, right.
We have two Dwaynes.
Yeah. But yeah, and the Allmans, yeah, they did it pretty well for the most part. I think probably like the most like sort of questionable Allmans lineups were the ones in like the early 80s, you know, where it was like just basically Greg, Dickie, and Butch Trucks were the only
Dan Toller the guitar?
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I don't know much about Dan
Les
Toller.
Dudek was for a little while, right?
Yeah. I don't know much about those players, but like, you know, that's probably like the pock marks on the Allmans legacy there in terms of playing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Good, man.
That's
good. Well, my first one for tonight, I think I'm going to talk about rock music and concert posters. The things that we have had on our walls basically since we were teenagers, guys. You know, at one time in the United States, it was kind of like mandatory. Pretty much like every teenage boy had to have some kind of like rock poster.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they? It's crazy to think that those days have kind of come and gone. I remember one of my favorites that I got, and Gabe, I'm sure you'll remember this one. I had gotten it at Recycled Records. It was the promo poster for Bob Seger's 9 Tonight. I had it on my wall for a really long time.
I remember seeing that in your room.
Yeah, and another great one that I had, and you had this one as well, and it's one of the greatest rock posters probably of all time, is the Crowes Gone poster. Where
I don't think I ever had that.
Oh, you never had it?
Where maybe Jonathan did. I don't know.
It's like the black and white shot of them, and like they're like laying in the grass, and like Chris is like shooting Steve in the head with a gun, and it says "Gone." Yeah,
good band photo. Yeah.
Another one. I know you had this one because I was always not jealous, but like I was always envious. You had a really cool Boston Third Stage poster, didn't you?
It was weird though, dude. It was the Third Stage album cover, but it didn't say Third Stage on it.
It just said Boston, right?
Yeah, and it had like the ship going into that atmosphere, you know, like yeah. So it was an interesting poster, yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, concert poster and concert poster art has I don't know. I think there's a new appreciation for it, you know, over the last couple decades that maybe you didn't have as. Like from a collector's perspective,
well,
you know.
Like I was
and we're talking about like Levi, you're talking about more like Musicland, something you get at Musicland.
Oh, right? Okay, all right.
I'm talking about both. I'm touching on both.
Okay.
So what I was going to get at was like there was a time, in at least in my life, where that was the only place you could get posters. Was it like head shops or Sam Goody or you know places like that? Right. And then finally, once I started going to concerts, I realized that most of the cool bands had a poster you could buy at the show.
Right.
So
okay,
like starting around 2000, 2001, all the stock Penny Lane type posters kind of started coming down in concert.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I see your transition here. All right.
No, you got to start young. I mean, kids don't. You start with a beer. You don't start with a whiskey bottle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember I had a before my parents remodeled the house, Levi, you probably remember my sister and I had like kind of like our playrooms downstairs.
Yeah.
Like we slept in shared a bedroom upstairs. And then downstairs there was a playroom, and my dad remodeled downstairs when I was probably about like 5th grade or so, 6th grade maybe. And I had the Def Leppard like centerfold from Hit Parader. I remember that was one of my early band posters.
That was another
slapped on the wall.
That was another place for a while. Like you could only get posters.
You get a poster in Hit Parader. Yeah, I'd pick up the Hit Parader down at IGA. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would make those pages specifically to tear out, right?
Oh, yeah.
It would just be a shot of the member, and then it would have their name with like a starburst underneath it.
Yeah,
right. Band name. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah, this would have been like Hysteria era Def Leppard shot. But yeah, you're right, Levi. I mean, like it's there's some bands that really, they've got a different poster artist for each night,
It's become business.
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but like I don't know if you go to like a Lady Gaga tour, does she have like a poster for every night of the show? I doubt it, and that's not a knock on her. I happen to like Lady Gaga, but I guess it is kind of, it comes with the culture of certain bands and, mainly rock bands. Although there are gig posters, in any genre, but like I think the posters that we're talking about where you buy them at the merch tent, that's kind of something special. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Another classic quote I remember you had was like the Kiss, you had like the Kiss 76 tour where they're all dressed up like the Bicentennial, right?
Yeah, Spirit of 76 tour. Yeah, I had that one. That's a great poster. Yeah, great.
So do you have any of yours still?
I've got a few downstairs, but they're mainly, I don't have any of the ones I had up like as a teenager.
Really?
I don't think so. I had a giant Who one that Stacy Greer got me. Bless her. And it was like late 70s, early 80s, because it was Kenny Jones on drums. And then I had a Hendrix poster of like the classic one where he was like lighting the guitar on fire.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
I was trying to trace back to like one of my first concert posters, and I couldn't put a finger on it, man. I mean, Government Mule. We got that Life Before Insanity poster. That tour. That was like one of my early.
That was almost kind of like a promo for the album, though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Like I don't know, like my first
like actual poster I got at a show. That might have been one of the first.
In '95 on Pearl Jam's '95 tour at Summerfest. For that tour, they had, which included Soldier Field, they had a poster for like a whole leg, right? And it listed all the cities, and it was on a heavy stock, and it was this like circus guy with a snake around him. It was a model. It was a figurine. It wasn't a person, and it was a bit of a collage. And that was my first concert poster. Nice. I still have it tucked away.
That's awesome.
Somewhere. But it was big. It wasn't what you get now is like whatever 18 by 24 or 12 by 18.
Right. Yeah.
It was like 24 by 36. It was smaller than what you would get at Musicland, but bigger than what tour posters have become.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy the business of it now, because I mean, some of the bands and some of the artists, it's like as soon as they're pressed and off the presses, they're selling them at the tent for $30, and then they're on eBay later for $300 or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're
insane.
They're just red meat for fucking geeks, I mean, yeah.
I'm a geek about it, and I've given up for the most part the idea of trying to get a poster at a show.
Yeah. The Pearl Jam crowd's a bunch of weirdos about that shit too. I'm sorry, Gats. Yeah.
And anymore, and I'm partial to just a couple of their poster artists, so I don't care as much about the other 70% that they have produced anymore. But yeah, that crowd is, it's like I'm not gonna stand in line for merch for 6 hours. I would rather go explore this city that I'm visiting for like the first time ever, and it's like, yeah. Let's try to recenter here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
so
no,
there you go. So yeah,
Levi, thank you for including this. I appreciate that. It's certainly one of mine. All right. Well, I'm going to shift it to baseball then. One of my favorite things is actually affiliated with a team that I don't root for, and it's affiliated with a place that I've never seen a ball game. And I'm talking about Dodger Stadium. Dodger Stadium's the setting of one of my first baseball memories, and I can clearly recall watching the '88 World Series and Kirk Gibson hitting his all-time classic of a walk-off home run against Dennis Eckersley in Game 1, putting LA in the driver's seat to win the series, ultimately in 5 games. So that is the original walk-off, by the way. Dennis Eckersley coined it as such as he walked off.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess the walk-off people weren't saying that in like the 1960s, huh?
No, yeah. So just like the Dodgers invented the high five in the early 80s, they also essentially invented the walk-off, and that Dennis Eckersley later in his press conference called it a walk-off because he walked off the field.
I did not know that. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
So, as I grew up and thought back on it or saw replays of that home run, it's endlessly replayed. I would think of the bleachers and the emptiness behind the bleachers that were ingrained in my memory as you saw the ball travel in over the wall. But it would take a couple of decades after the game for me to understand why I never forgot those details at Dodger Stadium. And I've never considered myself a Dodgers fan, like I said, but I think it's Dodger Stadium that has created my at least partial attachment to the team. Watching Dodgers home games always felt like kind of baseball escapism to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't really care who won, which helps. And rather, it was just a pleasure to watch the game in a setting that renders well on TV, like so much of LA is built to do. And a bonus for me is the West Coast start times that would result in that rare dusk gameplay light that I cherish. And I think I've mentioned it early in our list. But so it was about a decade ago I started to appreciate and learn more about mid-century modern architecture. And it was then I realized the mid-century characteristics of Dodger Stadium that caught my eye all those years ago in '88. It was those wooden bleachers, original since 1962, and their folded zigzag roof overhang and hexagonal scoreboards in the outfield. That it was all these things that I found aesthetically pleasing that I couldn't quite put into words as an 8-year-old. So overall, the stadium design is fairly simple. Though it has the largest capacity in baseball, it doesn't feel overwhelming or imposing. Thanks in part to these single deck outfield bleachers and the minimal overhangs that surround not just the outfield but the entire stadium.
Yeah.
And so the last feature that I've appreciated through the years is the dark emptiness behind the outfield bleachers. And before visiting LA, it was hard for me to understand that this stadium in one of the largest cities in the world could have such a dark void of a backdrop. But that's turns out that's one of the characteristics of the hills of Los Angeles. You get these vast areas of undeveloped nature. Right. And it's fitting this juxtaposition into Dodger Stadium makes it, I think, pretty unique in all of baseball. However, now that void is a thing of the past. That as the Dodgers added a concourse behind the bleachers just this past offseason. And I'll miss the emptiness, but the new concourse has been tastefully executed and within the original aesthetics of the stadium when it was built in the early 60s. So I think it'll fit right in, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it renders on TV and hope it helps me escape into that West Coast vibe this Midwesterner yearns for in 2020. Dodger Stadium.
Or 2021 if we get baseball.
Yeah, it doesn't. I had no idea it was the largest stadium. It doesn't come off as big on TV.
Yeah. It's like 50,000, right? At least. I mean.
Yeah, it's 50 plus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which that wouldn't have been uncommon, like probably as uncommon in the 70s and 80s when you had a lot of football and baseball franchises sharing a stadium,
Well, and it's amazing in a town like Los Angeles that, you know what I mean? Usually it's like tear it down and build something new.
Yeah.
That the stadium has endured.
So Getz, it's bigger than Oakland Coliseum, or is it just like Oakland is smaller because they tarp the seats?
Oakland could probably fit more, but they don't. Right. Yeah. Because they tarp.
Yeah,
likely. Yeah.
Well, originally, like back in the day, it would have been what? Would have been the Olympic Stadium where Montreal played? Didn't that place hold like? I wonder what the biggest stadium ever has been in the MLB. That'd be a topic for another day.
I think there have been temporary stadiums, because the Dodgers played at the Rose Bowl maybe before Dodger Stadium, and so technically you could fit like 100,000 in the Rose Bowl. No.
Yeah.
But as far as long term goes, I'm not sure.
The Braves were at that Olympic Stadium for quite a while, up until they moved, just last year or the year before.
Right. Yeah, that was converted.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if for stadiums built within the last 25 years, they're going to put them at closer to 40,000 or like 35,000.
Right.
Heck, with the way attendance has been in a lot of markets, they could probably put them at 20,000. I mean, yeah. But I've there's always been kind of something alluring about the Dodgers and just kind of the lore behind the team and the history and
as a kid in the 80s, it seemed like Tommy Lasorda was kind of everywhere.
Yeah, he was a celebrity.
He was like Bob Uecker.
Lovable. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of had like sort of like in the 80s too, like I was always like a little bit envious of the Mets talent, like I always like wish the White Sox were that good. Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to visit the old Shea Stadium as well, and see like the Big Apple,
Right.
That'd have been cool.
Well, you're in luck because in the new one, the apple is even bigger.
Oh, okay. All right. I have to admit, I've heard kind of mixed reviews of Citi Field. Like I've talked to a few friends that have been there, and they said it's not spectacular. Let's put it.
It's interesting because they tried to model it a lot after Ebbets Field, which is where the Dodgers used to play when they were in Brooklyn, and it's almost awkward in that sense, like the owner's obsession with the Dodgers and Ebbets Field and how he's trying to get his new girlfriend to look a lot like his old girlfriend.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, I have this new logo for the Mets. It's a bee.
It's a bee. Yeah, it's a blue bee. And so he had to reel that in a little bit. But the outside of Citi Field is the Ebbets Field like rotunda. Just totally mimicked.
Yeah.
I think overall though, I assume it's an upgrade to Shea, but still, kind of like mixed reviews, like you said.
Yeah, wasn't I think this year in baseball, weren't the Rangers scheduled to open a new park this year? Yeah. Which and then the other one wasn't that old.
Yeah,
it was like 25 years old. It opened in like 94 or something like that. Yeah. I guess just they want air conditioning. It's hot as hell.
Rightfully so. Yeah, I mean that place is basically turning into the climate of central Mexico. So
right. So
yeah.
That was a good one, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll go with this one because we have a thing on the podcast here. Longtime listeners will know, but if you haven't heard it, check it out in our archives. We have a thing called the Chew-Ins, where we induct bands that are unlikely to ever be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I want to give some accolades to the Rock and Roll Hall for kind of bringing a little more populism into its voting in recent years. So I'm appreciative of that. I think all three of us, we've talked about it kind of ad nauseum on this show. We've all got some ambivalence around the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's kind of very, it's not very rock and roll for a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to exist. Let's put it that way. It's always sort of, the criteria is always kind of hard to pin down. It's not like baseball where it's just kind of numbers mostly. But I wanted to say that I like the fact that there's becoming kind of more populism, like some of the turning points of like bands that like I didn't think would get nominated, like obviously Kiss is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Journey, Boston, Cheap Trick. While Cheap Trick seems like they've gotten more due in recent years, those are all bands that were never like critically acclaimed, you know? Yeah. Whereas, you know, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, prior to I think some of those bands getting in, you either had to have the record sales or you had to have kind of this cultural clout, you know? You had to be influential and sort of, you know, have music writers think you were important and all of that. So I like the fact that it seems like the voting lately is they're honoring bands that don't have to be critical darlings but are still really important to popular music. I think like the kind of the territory that they haven't touched enough of, and maybe it's because the genres are younger. They need to get more hip hop and they need to get more heavy metal into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, if Metallica's in, all of the other big four bands should be in too. With hip hop, you know, they're getting there, but they don't have, you know, enough. Like I could name a dozen rappers that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that haven't even been on the ballot. You know, so it's getting better, but it's got a long ways to go. You know. So I just wanted to.
Have you ever been to the Rock
sing
Hall
some praises?
One of you guys?
I haven't. No.
Yeah.
When did you go, Jonathan?
I think when I was 18.
That would have been right around the time I went.
Yeah.
I think that's a good time in your life to go because, like, you're still open-eyed and optimistic about the whole idea of rock.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when I was there. I think there was the special exhibit was on Lennon. They had they had the bed from the bed.
His glasses.
They had his glasses. They had his driver's license.
His report card.
Yeah, it was. And I remember they had a bunch of in the lobby when I was there. They had like these things from like a fish show. It was like one of the big fish shows, and it was this thing of French fries that had a fish logo on it.
Okay,
it was like these set pieces from a fish tour. And they had them hanging up way high because they were huge.
I think it was one of their Madison Square Garden shows in like the mid '90s. I think they had like these big inflatable things. Like they had a hot dog and they had like I think fries or something. Yeah. So
it was kind of neat to see they had like recycled that as decorations at the Rock Hall.
Yeah.
Did they have the U2 car in there as well? I remember the U2 car being like they have a Volkswagen Bug. I think that U2 used in one of their sets.
I don't remember.
Maybe for like Zooropa tour or something.
I just remember it seemed like it was endless cases of like costumes.
Sure.
Like it seemed like it was
how did Jimi Hendrix fit into that sort of thing?
Right. Yeah. And then I mean a lot of it too would be like they would have a little glass case and it would be like the drummer's kick drum, the guitarist's guitar amp for whichever band, say the Beatles, Zeppelin, whoever.
It's a museum, so
yeah.
It was interesting enough. You know, the whole idea of the thing is, like you said, it's I don't know. There's a whole ambivalence towards the whole thing. It's like who is anyone to really necessarily say who gets in without voting? You know what I mean? There's no voting.
Oh, I think go ahead. Like the museum part is fine by me. You know, whatever. You know, that's a museum is cultural artifacts. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, whatever. There's museums all over that honor things. But yeah, my issues are with this gatekeeper type shit. You know that
gatekeeper by taste.
Yes.
Yeah. That can fluctuate depending who's on the board.
Right.
Totally. Yeah.
But it's really just influence, right? It's an artist's influence because I think we all would agree that there's probably really great artists who have sold, you know, maybe 8,000 records in their career, but they're just as talented as some of the musicians who are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they just don't have the influence. They don't have the cachet.
I agree with that.
And so you can't base it completely on the merits of talent. And talent actually has kind of not much to do with it. And that's not to diminish who's in there. They're all very talented, but there's also a lot of very talented musicians who will never be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sure. And they just didn't have the reach.
Yeah.
They didn't have the luck.
To put a final point on it, I won't be satisfied until Styx is in. Okay.
they undoubtedly had reach and influence.
Yeah, man.
Agreed.
I'm going to swing over to baseball. Were you done, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to swing over to baseball on my next one. I originally kind of had this pigeonholed as just 1980s Wrigley Field, but I also spent a lot of my time going to games at 1980s Busch Stadium because it was only 90 miles instead of, driving all the way to Chicago. And so we would go, with big groups, either my mom and my dad and my sister and I, or a lot of times it would be like a caravan of people would go up there from the Chatham area. And so I just remember Busch Stadium at Wrigley Field in the 80s was just like day drinking personified because most of the games were during the day, it seemed like back then, especially at Wrigley Field. But even at Busch Stadium, it seemed like they had a lot of day games back then. And so I can remember walking around Busch Stadium one time and I was looking for the urinal, the restroom. And I walked in and a guy was just leaning against the wall puking. And it's like 11:30 in the morning, on like a Tuesday or whatever it was. And one of my other memories of Busch Stadium in the 80s was it was just so damn hot. It seemed like there always because of the turf. And it was just like you wanted the seats up high where the arches were. Because you could get a little bit of air up there.
Yeah.
Like the closer you got to the field, it was just, it was unbearable.
Yeah.
And so then the other thing, it was Wrigley Field. It was basically the same way. At Wrigley Field, I probably never saw more people in the stands without T-shirts than ever in my life.
Sure.
Which is the thing you don't see at sporting events anymore. They obviously... Do they make people?
Where are the shirtless men? Says Levi.
Well, like where did that go?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
every stadium.
You're right though. You don't see it. You don't see it, and like you're right. In the 70s and 80s, like constantly.
Yeah. There's more concern about skin cancer now.
Right.
Yeah, but Levi's right though. Like, when did it become kind of taboo? That's a really good point. Like, I don't know when exactly that shift happened. Like it just stopped.
I think around like 91, maybe.
91? Yeah.
Early mid-90s? Yeah, I could see that.
I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
I think we need a 30 for 30.
Because like you look at a photo from, and maybe this is just shared aesthetics, and, everybody kind of dressing similar, but like, you look at a photo of a baseball game from the 70s and it's like, whoa, is that a baseball game or a Foghat concert? Like you'll see like long hairs with their shirts off and shit,
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but Levi's right though. I don't know. That's not really the case anymore.
No. I wouldn't even take off. I would dread being on the Skins team on Shirts versus Skins at PE. So like I wouldn't even want to take off my shirt in a gym, and I definitely wouldn't do it in front of 35,000 people.
I didn't go there that often, but I always did like, Levi, as well, the aesthetics of Busch Stadium. I think it's I like the old one. It's like very. It was intended and designed. It looked very futuristic, like when it looked like something like out of Logan's Run or something like that.
And the arches across the top all around.
Yeah, and then if I'm not mistaken, like wasn't it encircled by like a bunch of red tulips outside? Right? Wasn't there like? I mean, I know like every stadium has flowers outside.
Right? But I'm trying to remember outside as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go there probably as often as you guys did. I mean, I probably went to the old Busch Stadium maybe 3 or 4 times only. But
I remember one time we were bored. We were there like an hour or two before the game started, and like across the street. I mean, I have no idea if it's still there. and because this is before all the ballpark village, and they've redone all Busch Stadium and all that. But at one time, the Professional Bowling Hall of Fame was across the street from Busch Stadium. Nice. And so we killed an hour in there once. And it's like, for a 10-year-old, it doesn't get much more exciting than the Professional Bowling Hall of Fame.
Right. You're not gonna, in the Professional Bowling Hall of Fame, you're gonna find some folks that don't necessarily look like athletes in the Professional Bowling Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I was just thankful for getting to experience 1980s era Busch and Wrigley Field. They're definitely memories I'll always have.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're fortunate to have grown up in Central Illinois and have both of those so nearby, and they're it's a good dichotomy to have between those two stadiums.
And I'll have to sit up. There is another team in Illinois as well.
There's another stadium up there.
I was.
There's two teams.
The new one's not worth mentioning, but the old Comiskey had its charms as well. I'm lucky I got to go to it. Did either of you go to it?
Yeah.
No, I never got to go.
Red Sox play there.
Okay.
I always appreciate it though for the old school lollipop scoreboard.
Oh yeah.
It would.
I mean, it looked
fireworks at a home run.
It was one of those places it looked really old. On the outside, it was obviously it was old, but it kind of just rudimentary. It was it was neat.
Cool. It's too bad that they couldn't save it, or they didn't take that alternate plan that was dreamt up when they were creating the new Comiskey, because the alternate plan is I forget the name of the plan, but it was a cool drawing. It was a cool layout, and it would have retained a very vintage feel. It was very antithetical to what new.
I guess at one point in the Cubs history, there was talks about a Lakeshore Cubs stadium, like the Cubs were going to possibly move out of Wrigley Field and play and build a park.
The winds, man.
Right? Yeah, it's the wind's already bad where they're at. Could you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because they're not terribly far from the lake now. I mean, they're not Lakeshore by any means, but it's not.
Certain angles from the roof, the cameramen can zoom and see the lake, because they do that. The in between shots as people are just chatting in between innings or whatever. They'll show boats on Lake Michigan.
Sure.
In the background.
Yep.
But I never really thought about that. They aren't that really far from it now. So could you imagine how awful it would have been to try to pitch in a baseball stadium right next to Lake Michigan?
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Nice. Good choice. All right. So I'm gonna shift over to music now. And so in my opinion, having a favorite song is a relatively juvenile thing. And so my next point is one of my favorite things is the idea of having a favorite song. But, as teenagers, I think most of us would designate favorite songs that would have a tendency to change with the season. As I grew older and my taste grew broader, the idea of proclaiming a favorite song seemed pretty unnecessary. But between 92 and 96, my favorite song was basically my favorite cut from the most recent album by my favorite band. And so in other words, it was Oceans from Pearl Jam's debut, 10. Then it was Rearview Mirror from Pearl Jam's second album, Versus. Then it was Corduroy from Pearl Jam's third album, Vitalogy. And finally, In My Tree from Pearl Jam's fourth album, No Code. Even State of Love and Trust was sprinkled in there for a bit. It's one of those B-side champions I forget about, like when Sergeant Slaughter was held the WWF belt for a few months in 91.
Yeah.
Look it up. He did. But so In My Tree was the last song I designated as my favorite. It's the fourth song on No Code, my favorite Pearl Jam record. Following Who You Are, resulting in two distinctively percussive back-to-back tracks, thanks to the brief but brilliant tenure of drummer Jack Irons. And upon first listen, In My Tree was the point in No Code when I realized my favorite band was maturing and evolving, and I really loved it. I loved that. To me, In My Tree embodied the spirit of making a bold statement that was larger than just like a righteous lyric or a guitar riff, right? So I find the studio recording of In My Tree to be very precious, and I try not to listen to it that often. In fact, I think about the song more than I listen to the song, and I want to shield the recording from like the harsh light of present day realities, pre or post COVID. Lest it
you'll probably analyze it too much, now. If you listen
exactly.
To it,
yeah. I don't want it to fade and lose its vibrancy, and I want to continue living in that moment in time when I first heard it in 1996. But not for nostalgia's sake, rather just for knowing that it will be there as a fresh well of inspiration and evolution whenever I need to embody a bolder, more juvenile spirit. So In My Tree / having a favorite song is one of my favorite things about rock and roll.
I don't know if I have, I can name my favorite song. Right.
Growing
up, yes, Baba O'Riley was my favorite song.
Yeah, and that's just it. It kind of stops when you're 16. Like, you just stop naming favorite songs.
And plus, God, Baba O'Reilly's such an iconic song. It's been in so many fucking movies and commercials and shit that it's there's still a lot of beauty at its core, but I don't view it I don't process it the same way. Just obviously where I'm at in life, but also just. I've just heard it so fucking much that it doesn't resonate like it used to. Hopefully there's a kid out there that'll hear it for the first time and be like, wow, this shit's fucking amazing, because that was
a hot dog cart. Right?
Yeah, that was right. That was me when I was 14, But I don't I can name probably my top I definitely can name my top 5 albums, full LPs. That's easier to do, but songs, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think there gets to be a period in your life where you grow out of that almost.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Is it pretty much stops after you turn 20. You don't really name favorite songs anymore. As your tastes grow and you don't feel like you have to
trying to think.
It doesn't need to represent you. You don't feel like you need to have a single song represent you. And another thing about In My Tree that I find interesting is that I think the studio version is the best version. It doesn't reproduce that well live.
No, it doesn't. That's a really good point.
And they actually rework it a little bit live versus the studio version. And so that's don't get me wrong. I mean, I like to hear it live. But it's that makes the studio version that much more meaningful to me.
I would even argue that No Code is my favorite Pearl Jam album. I would even argue that with the exception of maybe 3 or 4 tracks, I like it studio much better. It's by far their best. Not by far. I don't know. They got other great albums, but to me, it's hands down. I don't even have to think about it. My favorite studio record of theirs.
Yeah.
And not all the tunes do translate that well. Who Are You isn't that great live either. Or Who You Are. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm always going to say that. I'm always going to mix that up. Just
sometimes Hail Hail and Present Tense are the mainstays.
Yeah.
On the live show, but everything else.
Or Lucan, because that's just such a
off he goes. Yeah. But it's a very intimate record that. Yeah, you might prefer studio versus live.
Right.
I don't know.
Cool.
Good deal.
Oh shit, is it me now? All right, last round here. Yeah, okay, last round. This one I have to admit I didn't research it too extensively, but I just want to acknowledge that I appreciate it. And it's something that probably if you would have told me 20 years ago, I'd been like, oh, that's not going to happen at this level. It's pretty cool that they have a lot more LGBT events at baseball games, I think. As in 2019, all but 2 teams, the 2 Texas teams. Yeah, right, huh? Fuckers. All had LGBT nights, and that's really good and heartening to see. Even if the folks that are there that aren't cool with it, they kind of they have to see it, which is good. It's good exposure, and it's good. It's a good union between baseball and an important cause, and I'm glad that. I assume it's sort of permeated other sports as well. Baseball's the only one I follow really closely. Not sure if NASCAR has a pride race or anything like that. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they do. But yeah, it's cool to see. It's even in markets like obviously you wouldn't be shocked if like New York, San Francisco, and Chicago had one. But hey, St. Louis and Kansas City also have them too, and so it's really good to see that that's a lasting thing now. So that's it.
Cool. Yeah. It's amazing how far we've come. Just, it's easy for me to say. It's a little surprising and in a good way how far we've come in the last 5 years.
Right.
And that it is a mainstay, and it absolutely should be. I mean, baseball's a sport that needs to grow its fan base.
Yeah. and baseball's a sport too that I think does kind of hold on to its past. A little. It's got that cranky old white guy thing to it sometimes as well, which if baseball's got something to shed, I think that's it. Anything to kind of like erode that, more good.
Absolutely.
Do you think that baseball has the opportunity to appreciate fans more than other sports? Because I don't think about fans. I don't think about the idea of there being pride nights for NFL games. I don't think that's a thing. Because
baseball, the number of games. The number of games may have something to do with it as well.
Yeah, they've got a lot more themes.
Yeah,
they got nights to fill, right? Yeah.
Right. Whereas football, you're getting 8 home games minimum, right?
So and they have twice as many home games as basketball and hockey.
Yeah, and in terms of like promos and things like that, I don't know to the degree that basketball, football, and hockey do those things.
Yeah.
I guess basketball somewhat. I feel like there's usually like a giveaway or something like that. But in terms of like themed nights or nights, paying homage to something, I don't know. Baseball seems like it's taken the lead here, but I could be wrong.
I'm trying to remember. I think you're right. One of the nights I went to a Nuggets game in Denver, it may have been Star Wars night.
That one's all over now. You could
get like a special shirt or something that had the Nuggets and Star Wars. Yeah. And like you got a special ticket or whatever.
Yeah, I think just about every baseball franchise at least. The White Sox have had one for a good 6 or 7
Grateful Dead is popular too. There's a Chicago. I know the Cubs and the Cardinals both have done Grateful Dead nights.
Right.
And as far as players go, I mean, I think there are a few minor leaguers who have come out.
Yeah.
I don't know if any major leaguers have, though.
Yeah, I don't know about that yet.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive.
Yeah. No, that's a good one.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna wrap mine up tonight by taking our fellow listeners on a little journey back in time here. And the scene is the year 2002. A young Gabe Fu is at the wheel of a Ford Explorer. It was you had? Did you have a Ford Explorer?
I had a Ford Explorer for a little while.
You did?
Yeah.
And
like
02,
01 to like 05, I had one. Yeah. 02, I would have been driving the Explorer. Yeah.
We loaded it down with our camping gear and our finest delicacies that we could find.
Right.
And we drove to Tennessee for the first ever Bonnaroo. Right. And it was a good time. And looking back, it was obviously jam band heaven that first year. It was literally all jam bands. Here, I'm going to do like a speed read of the list. Dirty Dozen Brass Band, Les Claypool and Frog Brigade, Widespread Panic, DJ Logic, which I guess isn't, but Old Crow Medicine Show, Ween, Government Mule, Humphreys McGee, Keller Williams, The Keller Williams Incident, The Big Woo, Donna the Buffalo, Carl Denson's Tiny Universe, Ben Harper, Widespread Panic, Jack Johnson, the John Butler Trio, Del McCurry, Galactic, Gabe's favorite, the Disco Biscuits, Colonel Bruce Hampton, Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains, which me and Gabe separated, and I went to that show. The Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains. It was the one-off.
Yeah, with Buckethead.
Mo was there, obviously. Phil and Friends. They didn't. This was when Fish was broke up, so they just had Trey. He played.
Right.
North Mississippi All Stars, Bela Fleck, Mofro, Robert Randolph. It was literally basically every major jam band of that era,
jam bands.
And even a bunch of the lower mid-level jam bands. You know what I mean?
Right. No, there never been anything done like it before, really. At that scale.
In the United States.
Yeah, in the U.S. Yeah. With like of that genre being represented at like a big festival, where like there's 70,000 people there or something.
Yeah, that's how many they sold 70,000 tickets that first year,
right.
And they were all sold out pre-show.
Yeah, it was huge because, like you said, there had never been a festival devoted to that scene. Like the modern day festival version of it.
Right. Well, I think part of the beauty of it was not knowing what to expect.
Sure.
And, because we
went to the first.
Everyone was in a pretty good mood because no one, you know what I mean? There was no preconceived notions of what it should be, what kind of time you should be having, because this time has never been had before.
You're right, man. I mean, it even if like you read that lineup and like if that was tomorrow, like I probably wouldn't go. You know what I mean? Like I'd see like three of those. I'd see like three of those bands and split. But yeah, like it felt like we were going to something important and exciting. Like something that was, like you said, obviously it was new, but yeah, everybody was pretty amped. Just because it was so new,
and it was kind really well organized.
Yeah. And it gave birth to kind of it changed the game in terms of for festivals.
It's really well organized. One of the things that impressed me the most was, do you remember every morning they were making up a little newspaper?
Yeah, the Bonnaroo Beacon. Yeah.
It was like every morning you could get a little free newspaper and read what was happening at the festival that day, and it's like, wow. It
was like usually like a recap of like the previous day, and like little just like there was like some band interviews and stuff in there as well. But yeah, it's but I mean, we talked about on the show, how much of an institution Bonnaroo became, and then I think, unfortunately, kind of lost some of it as well. And that's not because, it's not as granola as it once was. I actually liked it more when they diversified the lineup. But it's...
They went from being one of the only festivals in the game to having lots of competition.
Yeah, and a lot of overlap within those festivals, too. Yeah, and now, 18 years later... It's I don't know. Certainly the newness has worn off. Let's put it that way.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, you're right, man. I was fucking jacked, man, on the drive down there.
Oh yeah, we were super excited.
Yeah, nothing.
I'll never forget. No one knew really what was going to happen, like security wise.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah,
we're like,
there's a lot of fuckers. There's a lot of people sweating on the line in there.
Right. Everybody, we were really lined up. Remember, they hadn't opened the gates yet, so we were lined up to get in. And so, you can tell a bunch of people are just sweating.
Oh, dude, we were. I bet we were within the first 1,000 people in.
Oh yeah,
if not like first 500 people.
I was gonna say we were probably in the first 500 cars in. Yeah.
And, early, man. And
I'll never forget. So we pull up, and it's like some people in Bonnaroo volunteer shirts or whatever, and they're like, "Okay, can you come out and pop the hatch?" And so we like pop the hatch to the back of the Explorer.
I mean, everything's jammed in there.
Yeah, it's like full of camping gear. They just look. Okay, go ahead. Like we could have had whatever.
Yeah, and also like they put you. They didn't have like, I mean, it was well organized, like Levi said, but they also probably were still developing some of those systems, and because we were there so early, we got a kick-ass site. I mean, dude, we were camping right next to right by the main stage.
Yeah.
Like all we had, it was like a stumble to the fucking main stage from our campsite. Yeah. And it was just all based on when we got there, and it was Yeah, it was really. I felt like I was attending an important cultural event. Definitely.
It was when I learned that Tennessee was just as fucking humid in the summer as Illinois.
It was a warm one, and that was only like the middle of June. So yeah, it was already it was a hot.
You would be up by 6 or 6:30 a.m. because it would just be so hot and humid in the tent.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
How were the amenities?
Clean,
food, restrooms. Yeah.
Like there was a couple times where like certain porta potty like they would have stations of porta potties.
Yeah.
And there would be sometimes when certain groups of porta potties hadn't been cleaned in a while, but like, I mean,
pretty good though. Well, they also had like a really good like volunteer organization. This company called Good Vibes, which was volunteer led. So like a lot of the trash was picked up by volunteers, and they got to get into the show for free. So they still got to catch some of the fest. Yeah. And it was just it felt communal. It felt just no bad vibes. Obviously good vibes. It was clean vibes. Clean vibes is what the place was. The company was called.
Yeah, it was a really good time, and I'm like Gabe said, would I probably go tomorrow if it was again? No, but the experience was worth it. It
was kind of the apex of that scene, really. That was like its high point.
As one of our favorite bands said, we're wiser for the time.
There we go.
Right on. All right. Well, I'll close out the show here with another one of our favorite bands and a specific show. So June 25th, 1999, Government Mule played Mississippi Nights. And first of all, were all three of us there?
Yep.
If it was the Life Before Insanity tour, yeah.
No, it wasn't Life Before. It hadn't come out yet. You were there, dude. I bought you a ticket for your high school graduation.
Well, I know I saw him twice there. I wasn't sure if you guys if it was.
So it was probably 99 and 2000.
It wasn't Life Before Insanity wasn't out yet. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
They weren't touring behind a record, really.
I got to see him twice at Mississippi Nights, so that would have been the first time. The last time would have been the
2000 show. Yeah. So this was, well, the reason I choose this is because this is like you don't have many opportunities to have landmark shows in your life, and I feel like that this is one of them. This was the third of 8 Government Mule shows that I saw in 2 years, which is pretty good for me. That's pretty dense for me. I know a lot of people do much denser consumption of their favorite live bands, but that's
unless you're like a Deadhead or some shit.
Well, at that time, that's pretty good, man. Because you would have had to do some traveling to see them 8 times.
Oh, we're fortunate that they would play Chicago, Central Illinois, somewhere like Peoria, and then
they'd make it over to Iowa.
They would make it over to Iowa. And so, and this second factor that I think is what makes this show stand out is the era of the band. This is, in other words, this is before Alan Woody died, and this is the height of Government Mule, for like the next couple years. And the third factor is the venue. Mississippi Nights is one of my favorite venues. It's now defunct. I believe.
Yeah.
And
it's tore down.
It closed
like tore down even. Yeah. So
like
those
around like 04 or so, something like that. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So those not familiar. I'll take you on the journey, just like Levi did, where we can get to Mississippi Nights in kind of like less than 2 hours from where we grew up in Central Illinois. And so that was a luxury for us. Less than 2 hours. I mean, that's
sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's pure luxury, and it was just over the river, just over the Mississippi River, right on the river, and so it's just like perfect setting in my opinion.
Yeah, Laclede's Landing is the
Laclede's Landing, yeah, and it was so damn loud, and I loved it. It was before I had the good peace of mind to wear earplugs, unfortunately. Right. So the ears rang for many weeks after these shows. It was hot, June. All these things make it a lot more memorable, and it adds to the legend.
I don't know if I ever saw a show at Mississippi Nights where it wasn't just like hot and steamy.
Yeah, was that place even open after September? Like, did they just shut it down in October and open it up again in May? And so the set list that night. Real quick, the band lineup just being Warren, Alan, and Matt. The trio. Open with John the Revelator, then Mule with the I've Been Working, Woody's Jam, and Who Do You Love teases, Thorazine Shuffle, Birth of the Mule, and then they get into some unreleased songs at the time: Life Before Insanity, Lay Your Burden Down, Bad Little Doggy. Then I Can't Quit You, Baby, Blind Man in the Dark, Doing It to Death, Nasty Dog and Funky King, ZZ Top. She said they close off the set with She Said, which includes the Norwegian Wood and Tomorrow Never Knows jams. Then for the encore, It Hurts Me Too, End of the Line, Young Man Blues, which is insane, the Young Man Blues, because they do these teases that are just absolutely showing off, because they go into Out on the Tiles, Thick as a Brick, Power of Soul, and La Brer. All four, and it's obscene, the talent that they're showing off. And then they close with Good Morning, Little Schoolgirl.
Oh yeah.
And it's so fun to listen back to the recording, because you can hear the excitement and the hooting and hollering of the grown men in the room. We're all just like fucking 18, 19 years old, right? 17, 18, 19 years old. But there are you can almost hear the grown, like 35-year-old men in the room just weeping with excitement that this band is melting their faces.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was something at the time I didn't really appreciate as much as I do now when I listen back and hear the excitement of the crowd.
Oh yeah.
It's good you say men too, because there weren't a lot of women at those shows.
Oh no, it's
like Rush.
Sausage.
Yeah, right.
Going to when Government Mule was a 3-piece, it was like going to a Rush show, basically.
The fewer members in the band, the higher the percentage of the male audience.
But no, dude, you're right. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a band that could get like full-grown men to just be like, there was always that guy that'd be like, Warren, how you feeling, Warren, how you feeling?
Dude's like, guys, shit.
Yeah, just guys, going fucking crazy.
Yeah. So it's one of those shows that will always hold a special place, and knowing where it is and its run and how we got to see that trio.
Yeah.
I still appreciate what Mule did afterwards. I think what they did afterwards is still very good, but what they did before Alan died, I think it's some of the best rock and roll I'll ever see in my life.
And so the Life Before Insanity tour show was when Marat opened, right?
Yeah, that was the next year.
Who was the opening act on that show? Did they not have one?
Yeah, they had a band called Day by the River. I remember.
I don't remember.
Jesus, Gabe.
Yeah, I know, right?
Fuck.
Yeah, they're pretty granola. They were. Kind of.
Yeah, there you go. Jackpot.
Kind of acoustic hookah-y, kind of type thing. Yeah.
Okay. By the river.
Damn. Yeah. They're from Athens, I think. Yeah, I think.
Good stuff, Athens. Jonathan.
Yeah. All right, made it through another 9.
All right, guys. Well, hey. Enjoyable stuff. Hope everybody is staying safe out there and is able to listen to all of our episodes at rockchew.com. Also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at rockinchew. Like us on Facebook. Tell your friends about us. Available on any podcasting app that you like. Just about any, I would imagine.
Give us a rating.
Yes, give us a rating. Need one of those.
Review.
We'll be bringing you some more content soon, wrapping up this list. And it's been a good night. So hope everybody has a great week. Take care.
Thanks, guys.